in 2020 when we had the George Floyd killing, and there was a tremendous outpouring of grief. And the realization came that until we heal our collective trauma of our histories of conflict, those unhealed wounds will continue to play out and be repeated again and again. And can we as citizens come together globally, locally, dealing with whatever is our shared history and the trauma that continues to sit in those spaces? Governments will do what they can do to heal, but as citizens, can we do our bit as well? So as part of that initiative, we normally do this around the full moon of July, and it's called the Guru Purnima. It is to the principle of the higher self inside all of us, regardless of our path that we follow, our religion. It represents truth principle. So it seems like a wonderful occasion around which to gather and address two things. One is, can we heal our collective trauma of the past? And the other is, can we lead inclusive peace for the future? So with that, the theme of this year's Truth and Reconciliation series is The Land Keeps the Score, Healing Our Ideologically Impacted Histories. What do we mean by that? There is a famous book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is understanding that the body remembers everything that has happened to it, and which, if not healed, eventually comes out as disease. It's the same understanding that the land we belong to is an extension of who we are. It carries, our DNA is made from that same substance, right? And the memories are held in the land. So if there is a lot of pain and trauma that lies unhealed, it will play out again and again in the people associated with those lands, right? We have a living connection with this space, right? So today is our first session, and we work with Kashmir. This initiative is India's gift to the world. And as a fellow Indian, I wanted to invite our beautiful brothers and sisters from the land of Kashmir, the paradise of Kashmir. And today we have two wonderful individuals who represent the Hindu community, Kashmiri Pandits as they are called, and two who represent the Muslim community. So we have Dr. Amit Wanchoo, we have Namrata Wakhloo, we have Sheikh Inayatullah, and we have Muheet Mehraj. And I'm just going to him. Welcome, everybody. I know you have just got off a plane, Muheet, and you have rushed to make the session, and you made it just on time. I also welcome our guests who have taken the time to join the call today. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. We're already live on YouTube. We may receive some comments and questions, which Neha, our coordinator, moderator, our helper here, can put together for us at the end. But let's just dive in and have a opening, a kind of a warm-up into why are we here, what are we doing here today, right? So namaste, salam, and welcome. And we come together in sacred space today, not to argue history, but to honor humanity. And this conversation is part of a new podcast we are launching for the very first time in the 6 years of having run the Truth and Reconciliation Week. And this becomes the first podcast of this year. And we are so deeply grateful to these wonderful souls. Sheikh Inayatullah is the CEO of Move Beyond, Center for Career Guidance, Counseling and Consultation, and he's based out of Srinagar. Namrata Wakhloo, she's an HR professional working with the corporate sector, and she's based in Gurugram. Dr. Amit Wanchoo, he's the CEO CEO of Space Communications, the first ever event management company of Jammu and Kashmir. He's also a MD doctor. And we have Muheet Mehraj, the founder and CEO of Kashmir Box and co-founder of Launchpad Kashmir. So a very warm welcome. And I know we've done enough of prep behind the scenes for us to be able to open our hearts and minds and just dive right in. But I'm going to ask us to just close our eyes for just maybe 10 seconds and take a deep breath and ground into your own land, ground into its history. You can half close your eyes and just remember the beauty of the paradise of Kashmir. My mind has gone straight to the Dal Lake. I can see the mountains around. And I'm breathing deeply as I remember us on our last Moj Kashmir sistership program for women change makers to regenerate Kashmir. We were sitting in a bus and driving on the boulevard. Bharat Wakhloo was with us. And the driver started playing the song, Kashmir, Kashmir, e Jannate Kashmir. And all our hearts just opened. Because regardless of race and religion, this is a paradise for humanity, for what we consider divinity. In any language, in any religion, the one truth, the truth of beauty. And let's breathe deeply and connect with that ground of beauty that is Kashmir. I'm sure all kinds of amazing visuals have already appeared in your heart and your mind's eye, even if you are not there right now. Thank you for inviting us, your well-wishers and your listeners today, to connect with this land of beauty and grace. So I want to begin by just having a round of sharing, right? I want each of you to remember an early memory of your shared roots. And you can answer any one of these questions. Now, what are your earliest memories of growing up in Kashmir like? What was Kashmiri society during your growing up years? And how, if at all, has it changed today? Can you speak about your interactions or friendships with classmates or neighbors of other faiths? Were you aware as a child or teen that there were other communities living alongside with your own in Kashmir? So you can raise your hand, one of our wonderful speakers, Dr. Amit, Namrata, Inayat, Muheet. Who wants to go first?
Okay.
I can speak. Okay,
Yeah.
Amit.
Let Namrata.
Let's
Let
go
Namrata.
with Dr.
No,
Amit.
Amit, come on, Namrata.
It's fine. It's fine. You start and then I.
Okay, so I think I must be the oldest amongst the entire lot here. So my childhood in Kashmir was spent in late 70s, mid 70s and 80s and all. And I lived in a joint family, very sheltered life, happy, big family. Then there is school you go to. Then there are very close relatives that you would go to. The society at large was very peaceful. There was a lot of tolerance between the communities, if we speak, you know, about the relationships between the two communities. And people respected each other. We were happy, we were happy living our lives over there. What happened later, honestly, I will come to that later. But if you ask me, you know, our little festivals, little things that we celebrated at home, all that was done happily. Our neighbors from different faiths, like Muslim neighbors, they participated in our little festivals. Everything was done together as a complete one community, you could say. So that is how it was. That's how we lived there at that point of time. At school also, I went to a girls' school, but then there were girls from different faiths. There were Muslim girls, there were Pandit girls, there were Sikh girls, there were Punjabis, and we were friends. We never saw that distinction. Even though we knew that we are from different faiths, and there are certain lines that probably we don't need to cross, we shouldn't be crossing. But that did not stop us from being friends with each other, or sharing our tiffin boxes, or going to each other's places on birthdays, or any other event. But at the same time, we knew that there are differences between the two communities. But we were always taught, the values that we were given was to respect, even if there are differences between the two communities or three communities. The values that were inculcated in us was like, okay, we need to respect, we need to have tolerance for each other. There might be differences, but that should not stop us from being friends with one another. So that is how it was. In fact, my best friend from school, she was a Muslim. She is a Muslim girl from Srinagar. Right from childhood until now, we are thick friends. We are the best of friends even now. So we didn't let anything come in between our friendship, even then in the 80s or 70s, nor even now. So whatever happened, whatever transpired in between, that really did not alter anything. So we're still very good friends. I go to Srinagar very often, and there's never a time that I don't meet her. I don't spend time with her. I don't stay over at her place. So that's how it was. So we grew up in a very happy Kashmir, in a very happy place where there was nothing that kind of intimidated us or scared us or was hanging or looming large on our heads, that we don't need to do this, we don't need to do that. It was an easy life.
Thank you. Thank you for that opening, Namrata. Sets the context. Dr. Amit, since you raised your hand.
Okay, so, well, for me, early memories of Kashmir are still very strong and lovely. And I would like to share a couple of anecdotes so that I could define it in a better way. So, I live in Nagar, and our next door neighbor used to be a Sardar family. And on the backside, we used to have a Muslim family. So, these were three very close knit houses. My grandmother's two best friends, and the Sardar house, we will call her BBG, and the Muslim house, we will call her Boba Auntie. And I remember those days, I was very young and we used to have tricycles. So, but I was always very much attached with my grandparents. So, around 4:30 in the morning, 4 a.m., they all three would get up, and I would always join them. And from here, it used to be a walking stretch all the way. If you remember, in near Renavari, we have three places. One is the temple, Hari Parvat Fort ke paas. Then we have the Chatti Pachai Gurdwara, and then we have Mukdam Saab's place. So all the three, we would go in three different directions that time. But then on way back, all the three would pay obeisance at every place. And as a child, I would love it because I would love the Kada Prasad in Gurdwara. I would always love the Prasad in the Mukdam Saab shrine, and obviously in the Chakrishwar, or what we call as the Hariparvat temple. There also. So for me, it was an attraction. And the talk that used to be with all the three of them would be such a lovely talk. That's why till date, I think I remember all the inputs from all the three grandmothers, I should say. And on way back, we would stop at Amira Kadal, where we have Hanuman Mandir, and it used to be a huge, all the vegetable and everything in the early morning, it used to be there. And then they would purchase, and every day I used to get gift. Obviously, I was the child, so any good gift from all the three used to be with me. So that is how I have grown up, one. And second, I also remember that the marriages used to be very special bond among Kashmiri Pandit Muslim Sikh families. And I don't know whether others remember or not, but I know that whenever a barat would come, say for example, you would have a Kashmiri Muslim doula coming to the vicinity, and if there was any eldest Kashmiri Pandit, so he would be the first one who would welcome him and take the blessings, and then they would go to the girl's house, and same would happen vice versa also. And many a times in the neighborhood, you would see that if it was a marriage of whether a Kashmiri Pandit or a Muslim or a Sikh, but the whole community would be together because marriage is the bonding time. Like for me personally, I have never ever encountered like these things, except that okay, fine, you're going to one or the other place. Even like I was fond of curd, and I'm fond of curd till now also. And in our childhood, whenever we would go to buy, they used to be bakers, and after buying some, you would always tell them, in Kashmiri we call it naveed, like prasad, and then they would give you a half roti or something. And whenever we would go and purchase the curd or anything that you are going, and they would always give you that, those days it used to be in that muddy containers, and they would I was very fond of curd. And we used to have, I remember when Muhammad Sultan, he was a very big, you can say, dairy owner that time. And I was the one who would just go into the shop, and he would tell me, fill up whatever you want to fill. Since I was fan of curd, so I would always take a big utensil with me and always fill it up without knowing that I had to pay him. And then I would come back, and he never would charge me. So these are very emotional things which I feel like we all, I'm sure, have spent with each other. And even I today believe that the connection between a Kashmiri Pandit or a Kashmiri Muslim or a Sikh at all personal levels is so strong that still they are in touch with each other. So that's what I feel Kashmir early memories are with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amit. That was very poignant. I'll invite Inayat to share next.
Uh, Thank you, ma'am. What I would say is, I should tell all of us, like, I'm an 89 born guy. So when I have, started observing the life and the society around me, I think it's only after 2005 when I crossed my like schools, like when I had to go into the higher secondary. So that was a time when we got some time to explore around because I was studying in Woodlands. Then only I went to the government school where the attendance was not mandatory. So then we started exploring what is happening around, doing something which was not a part of a routine earlier, and doing something which we wanted to do because we got some space. But so far as the context of this conversation is concerned, I would like to tell you, I don't think, different communities in Kashmir, religion has ever been any factor of, consideration while connecting with each other. So I would tell you, in my classroom, we had some Sikhs in school, and I don't remember anyone from the, say, being a Hindu. But yes, I remember Simranjit, like he was our classmate. And we had a number of teachers, like who were Sikh, who were Hindus. Usha ma'am, Dolly ma'am, she was a Sikh. And even our principal, Mrs. Singh, she was a Sikh. So what I would like to say is that neither we have ever been, grown up with this understanding of, keeping religion as an identity of a person. Like I'm telling you, at times I feel very, I would say I get surprised, when I face questions or when I get into a situation where religion is discussed, when, these connections are discussed alongside. I see connection is from heart to heart. If you see a good person, if you see a person who is like you, shares some common interest, some common understanding, you get connected. I don't think in Kashmir or in any other part of India or say for any other society,
I think
the shared understanding and us enjoying life together. That is how it is. And at the same time, it used to be a sort of I think having somebody from another community, even from another place, was always a source of excitement. Like how do they conduct themselves, and to learn this stuff and all that, and also practicing that back home. I used to this used to be a very interesting stuff, so far as my thing is concerned. And there is one more surprise. Trust me on this. Me, including my classmates, I'm 36 years old today. We didn't know anything about Kashmir problem till 2008 happened, whether you believe me or not. We don't know anything. We didn't knew anything has ever happened here. That, yeah, even if I was a part of crackdowns also. when I was a young, I would say 6, 7 years old. There used to be crackdowns, then there used to be a parade. I remember I used to be with my father having all the biscuits with me for the whole day. But it has never, gone beyond that in understanding, and even the parents didn't, I think, expose us much, to the problems, like to the Kashmir problem and all that. I think in 2008, when there was the first uprising on that Amarnath land transfer, I guess. So that was the only time, because I was in college at that time and we were not allowed to go to the college and everything. Then we started questioning like why this has happened, why we have been locked up and everything, why there is such. Then I think that became a sort of an reason for us to understand the entire historical context very deeply. And I think in routine, normally I don't think it was a part of the conversation anyways, but yes, at times I used to hear from my father, I guess, and from my grandfather also. They used to tell me like there were pundits and they're not here now, but they used to be great educators. This is, I think, always have been taught to us. They used to teach very deeply, because I used to question the method of teaching, some rote learning right from the beginning, and that has been the cause that I started a career guidance and counseling center, when I came out of the university. So that time I was told by my parents that there used to be teachers like, these pundits, because they have taught them, and then they used to tell us like how they were teaching, all appreciation we have. Trust me on this, I have never heard anything negative ever in my life told by anyone, neither in the family nor by neighbors. None ever have spoken. And if anybody has spoken, they have appreciated the kind of education and the educated the community was, and how they were imparting to us also. And one more thing I would like to quote is, later on, I think in 2015 or 2012, 13, I got connected to a Pandit family that lives in Ghaziabad even today. And that they used to be the friends of my one more friend, their family friendship and all that. So I got connected to that Pandit family that lives still in the Ghaziabad. Somehow I got so connected to them that I became a part of their joy and sorrow. And trust me, I think for a decade, there used to be a sort of, such my involvement in their problems, because that family was affected very much, not because of the like they have left the place, but because of their own personal problems. And I have even got few people here, to help them out also for certain things. And even one of I would not like to name the one of the famous journalists from the Pandit community, globally famous journalist. I also, got him in touch with them because they had a particular problem which I thought that he would be able to help as well. So this is the kind of understanding. This is the perspective we have, I would say, about everyone around, and even particularly about the pundits also. And when I used to go to Delhi, even today, when I see pundits in metros, and they always get so excited and fascinated when they see us. Telling you very frankly, we chat a lot, we exchange a lot of information. They ask us, we invite them, and there is a particular way, the way they put up this, I don't know what it's in English, jumka. They put it in a certain way, Kashmiri Pandit. So my wife has taught me, to if you have to
Dejur.
Dejor, if you have to identify the Pandit woman, like this is how she puts it. So even they used to, one of the Pandits I remember, they told me like they have taught Kashmiri to their children, even if they are in a very English medium school. We connect a lot, everything. I seriously feel that the kind of reconciliation we are talking, the kind of truth, I think the truth we all know. And so far as the reconciliation is concerned, I think somehow most of us have already reconciled, because the other community also knows that even if today we are quite aware like what happened to that community. And I used to ask my father certain things which I felt very offensive or annoying, like that, has it really happened? He told me yes, it has happened. And then I used to ask her, why you people were doing and all that. And at times I tell them, the problem we have today is because of you, our ancestors. somehow the Kashmir problem. So that way, on a personal level, even on a community level, I don't think there is any distinction or discrimination or a different perspective when it comes to a different community. It's not only for Hindus, for Sikhs, for Jains. My wife has a very close friend, and she's a Jain, and she is also has been up, living here. She has read in Presentation Convent in Mallinson, so she is even connected to her even today, like everything. So for me, it's quite okay. I really don't think that religion has ever come into the mind of a common Kashmiri, or I don't believe the right minded humans would ever consider this a distinction, in dealing with a particular person. So I think I spoke enough.
Thank you. That was very beautiful, actually, just extempore. And since you already opened the more difficult subject, I'm going to invite Mohit to, only if he has a burning need to share a good story, but it's okay if you don't mind to move into the more difficult ones. This thing of what happened with the break and the displacement, what exactly went wrong in the 90s? What do you remember from that time, either personally or from your family's experience? Now, I'm 58. I had my honeymoon in 88 in Kashmir, and 89 is when, from my understanding, the valley started shutting down for outsider tourism and so on. So when I hear that Inayat is born in 89, I almost laugh because I think, oh my God, he's so young. And then, of course, I remember the year 89 is a very serious milestone. And it's, there's a lot of pain associated with that. So forgive me if I laughed at that moment. So yeah, what do you think has been the deepest loss for you, your community, or the region as a whole since those events? Mohit, if you're ready to go deeper, I invite you to share that.
Sure. I think before I do get into that conversation, I think a bit of context would also help. My other fellow panelists have already shared their stories, so I'll just try to wrap it up in 1 minute of what my personal experience has been. I am a 90 born myself. I was born on a curfew day, and because of the curfew, my mother delivered me at my Matamal, as we call it in Kashmiri, my uncle's place, my mamaji's place, because we couldn't go to a hospital. So that's how I was born. And in terms of my growing up personally, I think I was living in a bubble myself, because my early childhood has been spent in an area called Indranagar. Now, Indranagar is where you have all these communities living together. And while we were growing up, the earliest memories that I have from my family and my parents and my neighbors is that in our neighborhood there used to be two kids. We were probably, I was around 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they were in their maybe teen years, or maybe they were in their early 20s, and these were Kashmiri Pandit kids. And they used to come to my father. They had a very beautiful relationship with him. They used to come, spend some time with us every single day, every single evening. They used to be with us. And my father those days had a scooter, and he would take that scooter and take them to ZTR and take them to all these religious places where Kashmiri Pandits usually go. So, and then while I was in my school was army public school. I've studied from there. And even in my neighborhood, my teachers, my private tutors were again Kashmiri Pandits. So we used to spend time there, live with them, eat with each other. So I was kind of living in a bubble where I thought the universe is as is, wherein there was no concept of what has happened to Kashmiri Pandits. Is there a history? Is there an issue? Nothing of that sort was there. The only thing that I knew personally was that there is this beautiful community. I am, born and brought up in a place where we have Kashmiri Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, Pandits, everyone living together, and that became my reality. Just like Inayat said, over a period of time when 2008 happened, that was the time when we actually realized what is happening. And honestly speaking, if you ask me, even today, I don't really know what has happened, because there are so many narratives. Reality also sometimes you have to understand is relative. There is a relative reality and there's an absolute reality. So the absolute reality is not something that I personally know of, because I have not lived it, I have not experienced it. But there are certain things that I have personally experienced. Inayat also delved upon a couple of those instances wherein you were paraded, you were taken out, there were encounters happening, curfew was there, hartals were going on. So you knew that the place definitely seems to have an issue. There is some sort of political issue, there is some sort of cultural issue, but you never at that point in time, in that age itself, you never really are sure what is really happening. But over a period of time, once you start having these conversations and you start understanding what has happened in the history, one thing became extremely clear to me is that there was this community of Kashmiri Pandits and to some extent Kashmiri Sikhs also, because of what happened in '89, which was a very, very unfortunate time. A lot of them had to unfortunately move out. Now, the reasons behind it, we don't know completely. Honestly, I'll be very honest about that. But if I start going and try to dissect what the reason is, I lose sight of what really matters. And what matters is that they left, and that is where I would leave it at. And whoever is responsible, whatever happened, we don't know. But the fact of the matter is that the Kashmiri Pandit community had to leave. They endured a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. I personally have so many close friends who are Kashmiri Pandits till this day, till today. And we have these conversations every time we meet, and it's all pain and suffering. But that pain and suffering was again on the Muslim side as well, because what happened after that time in Kashmir, we all know that. And that's, I think that's where the starting point should be, according to me. It is the realization and the acceptance that both the communities did suffer. Whatever happened was wrong. Whoever responsible for it definitely should be brought to justice. And yeah, that's about it. That's what I would say at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Muheet. That's very brave to acknowledge the pain on both sides. This is the purpose of today's Truth and Reconciliation, to just be able to speak a truth and your truth and have others bear witness to it. Sometimes that's all that's needed to start healing, the acknowledgement of the injustice that has happened. That's all that's needed. So I'm going to invite Dr. Amit to speak about this deeper, more difficult question. What do you think happened in the 90s? And what do you think has been the deepest loss for you, your community, or the region as a whole since those events? I know you personally have had a terrible loss.
90s, I would say, was definitely a disastrous time for all of us here in Kashmir. And as we know that the time when it all started, mostly when we know it's like the unidentified gunmen and the killings that started. Because I think one of the most important things, because I am someone who has lived in Kashmir also and has also seen the migration of my relatives. So I used to be in Kashmir also, and I also used to go to Jammu in sometimes, and then I would see the status of my relatives, my friends also. So I would like to tell you in detail this thing because it's very important. Like, first thing that I feel for all the Kashmiris, that we never had seen gun or grenade in our life. Even when I have seen the first time blast, like when it happened, it took me almost 2 days. I have not walked on that road first time when I saw. And then as the years passed, I was studying in Bisco, and then I was doing schooling. There was a time that every day Gantagar used to have grenade attack. And our class would start at 10. We used to have the bio class, first class, I remember. And we all would be under the benches waiting when the grenade will go, and then our class will start. And कभी कभी हम बोलते थे यार अब जल्दी हो जाता, आज टाइम हो गया, क्लास के 10 मिनट चले गए. Then that was the school time. And blast would happen, firing would happen. After 15 minutes, you are walking. You see your friends falling to bullets. You see your friends in crossfiring. Simultaneously, when we saw first the killing of the Kashmiri Pandit community happening, so As a minority, you always have this fear psychosis wherever you live in this world. Minorities always have a fear psychosis, whatever happens, and especially when there is violence. And if it is in a place where you have never seen, it definitely goes into that first thought process. And I think when you kill someone in a mohalla or in a locality, so what used to happen that time, no one had expected any killing. Those days you would fight, you would throw kanglis on each other, you would have brick fights, but someone getting killed on the roadside or firing bullets, no one had seen. So what started happening that once you saw any killing happening there of a minority, so the whole mohalla had nothing else to think about, or his relatives, because as I told you, the fear psychosis was there. And one of the important things also, in my opinion, was that it was winter also. It was not very hot summer. We were not, you can say, we had not seen such killings, and obviously no one was knowing what is to be done, what will happen. And things were in a very, I can say, there was no government, there was no police, there was nowhere where you could go. Like everything was in a very different attire. And yes, we have to agree that there was a feeling. See, that time there was an ideology which was supporting independent Kashmir predominantly. And then there was a segment which was also supporting pro Pakistan. So we used to have slogans like Hum Kya Chahte Azadi, and these things would happen. So it was a situation where a person who had, for example, was in minority and was thinking about his family, because that time you start thinking only about your family. And that's, I think, which basically started getting that exodus, because till Shivratri, I don't consider 19 January as the day when people left. There may be some people who might have left, but people were staying back because, we have Shivratri as a very important function. So majority of Kashmiri Pandit community was staying back till Shivratri was here. And I think that was in February, if I'm not wrong, in that year. So, but the killings were unstoppable. That there was a sequence that started happening, and simultaneously there were political killing of Kashmiri Muslims also. So during that time, it was a chaos. No one was able to control. No one was knowing what's happening, and there might be definitely some people who are the agents or who are managing few things. They were knowing. Besides that, no one exactly was knowing what's happening, and within the communities there was that feeling, that ideology was there, because there was a support for that independent Kashmir, or whatever we used to call that time. So that's how the situation, one part was there. Cut to now, if we see the second part, when the migration happened, Jammu was also not at all good for our community. We many times don't mention, but let me tell you, no Kashmiri Pandit was allowed to study in a school in Jammu, like Diwan Badrinath used to be those days or others. You always used to have second half classes, or there was a migrant school in a tent at 47-degree temperature. I have seen my cousin sisters at 2:30 p.m. The school would start at 47-degree in tent. There was no fan, nothing. We lost our elders because we never, because summer was something very hard for our community. We lost our elders to scorpio bites. We lost our elders to snake bites, because I'm talking since I have seen both the sides there. I remember my bua who had a palatial house here in Karan Nagar, and all the way she was in Jammu paying a rent for a cowshed, and there was no toilet. They would go in open to do toilet. This was 90s for majority of our community there. Then cut to coming to Kashmir when I was in school. Here also the tragedies were extreme. Sometimes you would see a bride is going somewhere because music system is on. You could not hear that stop, and firing happened and the bride died. Or in Hawal there was a massacre. In Bijbehara there was a massacre. In Safakadal there was a massacre. Like, I think there is a huge in both sides of communities, that even if we start talking, it's huge. But I definitely want to say here that we both have to acknowledge each other's pain. I always say two things we both communities have to avoid. We have to avoid one, that Jagmohan got Kashmiri Pandits out. Because the moment you start saying this, every Kashmiri Pandit gets irritated. And from the Kashmiri Pandit side to Kashmiri Muslims, we have to avoid saying they took up the gun, so they had to face. No. it is where you have to basically look at these two things. The moment we identify these two things, because everywhere the majority community, I mean to say, is the majority of Kashmiri Pandits, 80%, and majority of Kashmiri Muslims, 80%. No one could understand what happened in that short span. But it was not, we can't say, because there are so many instances where it was Kashmiri Muslims who came with you in the car, or who got the baggage out of the home, who went to people, or even after that also they were communicating. You can ask any KP one to one who is his closest. You will see either will be his neighbor, or some lady will have her friend who was a government teacher, or from different communities, I mean to say. Even when we would go to Jammu, many a times, because as the situation was worst here, many Kashmiri Muslim students also started going out for studies. From Jammu, when anyone would take train, I have personally seen, if a Kashmiri Pandit girl is going and Kashmiri Pandit sees a Kashmiri Muslim family, he will better feel it safe there, that daughter with her. And same vice versa. If a Kashmiri Muslim girl is going and they see a Kashmiri Pandit family, they will definitely keep the girl there. So even till date, we have not been able to break it, because unfortunately, from all across the fronts, from all the communities and everyone, there have been majority of the initiatives in breaking the relationship between the two communities, and there has been very minimal initiative in binding the communities. That's what I feel.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hold space just for a moment to feel those emotions. And without denying or minimizing, diminishing the tremendous 30 plus years of pain on both sides, I'm going to ask Namrata to start moving us towards the present moment. What can begin trust building in some way. Let's begin by looking at the challenges of today, not just the unhealed trauma of the past, but challenges of today. And they say, all healing happens in the present moment. If we were to look at today's challenges and address them in a wholesome way, perhaps that which lies unhealed from the past can also get healed. So I know you're doing a lot of work in the space of retelling the stories through the temples of Kashmir. Share a little bit about how you are rebuilding the truth of your community at the same time in a way that is honoring uh, the other as well. Please go ahead and just share your own work in this space.
Yeah, so it's been 35 years since the whole turmoil started in Kashmir. And the first 15 years, I don't know what happened because I was in my early 20s, juggling my career, house, kids. So I really don't know what happened. Kashmir had gone off my mind also. I think I'd forgotten about it. Though my parents never left Kashmir. We were there until 2001. So we've seen a different trauma there. But since we're talking about the present now, so the next 15 years, that is 15 years back from today, what happened? I saw that reconciliation, little efforts started sprouting. Ever since social media came, I remember I have been a part of these groups on Facebook. When initially Facebook came, they had these lots of groups came up. There was one MVJKL, Moderate Voice of Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh. There were some good Kashmiri Muslims and Pandits, moderate people who wanted to reconcile way back when Facebook started. And they started building this community, together, bringing the two communities together. There was another group called by whatever name. So I was a part of these groups, and the whole initiative was to help the two communities come back together. So I think people realized there are good souls, there are bad souls everywhere. So we do not want to paint everyone with the same brush, either Pandits or Muslims. So in those groups, I saw that we have lost a lot, and there are people who have realized, the youth, like 15 years back, we were younger than what we are now, and we have realized that no, we've lost a lot in the last 15 years. Let's try and do something now. And honestly, that brought me back closer to my homeland, which I had almost forgotten. And I started knowing more about my background, what Kashmir is, what its history was, how the right from the days of Sati Sir and how Bhattas or Pandits were there, how the different rulers ruled Kashmir, how from a Hindu Kashmir it became a Muslim Kashmir, and how now we are a democracy and there are different communities living together. So all that, I got up to speed, and I said I wanted to work in this space too, because as an individual, I believe reconciliation is the only way forward. That has always been my belief. That doesn't mean that I don't know the trauma or I do not understand the trauma that my community has gone through. I might not have lived in camps like Dr. Wanchoo just explained. I know my friends, many of my friends and colleagues have gone through that. Like I said, we were in Kashmir until 2001 because we were a business family, and my grandfather, uncles, aunts, everybody, we were running a business from the downtown. My grandfather said, what would we do if we go out? We have no jobs. We can't take a transfer. And at this age, my dad was in his 50s. How do we go to a place like Delhi and set up new shop and invest capital? We are safer and better off in Kashmir. So we were there until 2001. We went through a lot in a different way. It was difficult to live, though nobody harmed us directly, but my parents did go through a lot of issues happen. Now my thing is that what do we do now? Like I said, 15 years back, I have started my journey. I will fight for my people, definitely. It is their right to go back. It is our homeland, and I will always speak about it. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that there is any, hatred or any kind of animosity or ill will in my heart for the other community. Even if there were things that happened which shouldn't have happened. And there maybe, we don't know who did it exactly, but we know that things did happen. And so, like, why dwell in the past is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should not acknowledge. Yes, acknowledge the other community, the Muslim community should come forward. First and foremost, acknowledge that yes, you went through a bad time. Life was unfair to you. Kashmir was unfair to you. I understand people were helpless then. They were scared for their own lives too. I know what happened with many Kashmiri Muslim friends of mine, how they had to run overnight because of lots of things. But yes, acknowledgement must come. Please do not bring up the Jagmohan theory. That really annoys. Like Amit also said, it's so annoying. Who leaves your home and everything and go out because Jagmohan is sending you a bus? And then people say things like, you're getting a, what do you call this? Relief milta hai, you get relief, you made lives, you're minting money there, and now you're also, keeping the Kashmir pot boiling. So we should keep the Kashmir pot boiling, but not in a bad sense, but in a good sense. We need to come together. We need to acknowledge, apologize, or whatever we want to do, accept. And then the civil society needs to work harder than it is. I don't know what the governments are doing. They've been trying for 35 years and they have failed, all of them. We had lots of hopes. This government will come, they will do this at the central level or even the J&K. If this government came, oh, they made promises, they did this, nothing happened. But what I feel is they will work at their pace. It is people like us, honestly, who can make this work. The onus lies on the Kashmiri Muslims. I would say this upfront, to come up and enable us to come back to our homeland. There were times when they would have been scared to do this, to go out and hold a candlelight march or talk about it openly. I know they feared for their own lives. We must acknowledge that also. But now things have changed. So can we do more? Like, I was really happy when this Pahalgam attack happened. For the first time, I saw my own friends, women, men from the civil society come out with candles and, in support of whatever happened, because everybody acknowledged the fact that what happened in Pahalgam was just not the right thing to have happened. So can we, on the same lines, do more? Can we form groups? Can we talk about it? Can we approach the government bodies or whoever is the enabler? Can we do this and help the Kashmiri Pandits to come back. That is what I would want. And Kashmiri Pandits also need to be united. They also need to be forthcoming and talk to the people there and see how we can work together. In Kashmiri Pandits also, there are different ideology, there are different thought processes that how things should be. With especially when now that the Pahalgam thing has happened, there is a lot of, things have changed again. Things are going fine, smooth, and suddenly with this coming up, many people are now, they're angry actually. Should we be going back? Should we even be thinking of going back? Why do you want to go back to the same place where you got killed, where you got humiliated? You want to go back? But my own thing is that I'll never feel humiliated. It's my place. I was born there. My ancestors have lived there. Nobody's going to tell me whether I should come back or not. I will come at my own this thing. But yeah, I'm open to reconciliation. I've always been. And that's how it can happen, basically, through people like us. Can we have more people like us? You want to say something, Muheet?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's I was just thinking the same thing, that imagine if people like Namrata and Dr. Amit went into the Kashmiri Pandit community and started doing the gathering there and the return of courage and healing. And if people like Inayat and Muheet went into the Muslim communities and started talking about bridge building, because you hear it from your own first, and then do the bridging between the two communities. That's one of the thoughts I'm having.
Just to add, well, we've lost so much, Nilima. When I think my generation, I think I haven't lost much. I see my old parents, I know every day how they miss Kashmir, every moment. Even today in Gurgaon, 7 o'clock, they would log into DD Kashmir and they have to watch Kashmir ka news as if it matters to them what is happening there. But they do. So I feel bad for them. They would say it's so hot here. Kashmir, maybe used to do this. It is every day, not a day goes. So I feel bad for them. They lost a lot. And I feel bad for my kids because they don't know where do they belong. My son, when he was like way back in 2012, he was a little tiny tot. He said, Mama, everybody goes to their hometown summers May. Why don't we go to our hometown? Where is our hometown? So it kind of hit me. I said, no, I will take you. So we went there with my kids in 2012. I remember I showed them almost the entire place. So I think the loss more for the generation that is gone, the older generation and the younger one, they have lost the language. They don't know our culture. We do little things to keep things alive in Gurgaon or Delhi or wherever. But for how long? Maybe 20 years later, there will be no Kashmiri Pandit to take the legacy forward. So I feel bad for that. I think the losses of the older generation and the younger, we have somehow survived. We have adjusted
So
to the
Namrata,
Gurgaon heat and
you're bringing
water
up
and whatever crisis.
Namrata, you're bringing up a good point. I'm aware of time passing. 1 hour has flown. So we have another 15 minutes before we open for Q&A.
Sure,
So
sure.
I want you to speak to this identity piece, right? You're a young person, and what advice would you offer to young Kashmiris trying to find their identity either in exile or in a divided?
You mean the Kashmiri Pandits, younger generation?
Yeah, actually, to address this question, what advice would you give the young Kashmiris, who are struggling for identity, recovery of identity? And as Namrata is saying, has
Oh,
lived in exile and not even know what that was, as well as the ones in Kashmir, caught up in so much baggage and trauma of the past that lies unhealed, the mistrust. So where does the current Kashmiri youth in Kashmir find a reconciling identity, a healed identity to move forward?
who is the question for? Sorry, Nilima.
It's a question for Muheet.
Okay.
Ah, all right. Okay. Thank you, Nilima. So, I before I actually do get to this question, I think I definitely echo the sentiment that Dr. Amit as well as Namrata have highlighted from their side. I think whataboutery is something that has done the most damage to Kashmir. Whenever there is a conversation around Kashmir, the pain, the suffering, from the Pandit community, it's a whataboutery of what happened with us versus what happened with you, and then the same with Kashmiri Muslim community also. So as long as we are able to understand each other's pain and first start with the acceptance that everyone has suffered, I think that would be a good starting point. Whataboutery has never helped, it will never help, and all it has done in these many years is has actually postponed this reconciliation, and is not really letting people come out, have those difficult conversations, and have those starting points for reconciliation also, because you need to be in the right state of mind, both in your head and as well as in your heart, in order for that to happen. Coming to the question, I think, you know I am personally speaking, I'm a big believer of doing something at your own individual level, and somehow that translates into a snowball effect, and over a period of time, it may, and that's my hope, translate into a large scale impact. I run an organization called Kashmir Box. We have been doing this for the last 15 odd years. And what I'm really happy to share with everyone who's listening is the CFO of Kashmir Box happens to be a Kashmiri Pandit. His name is Ramesh Kaul, and he joined us in early 2018. So I've known him for almost now 7 years. And he's a person who had to leave Kashmir when he was studying in his seventh standard. And through him, I know the pain and the suffering that his family, his friends, his relatives have seen. And these are his words that, from the time that he had to leave from Kashmir, he was playing in a ground, and he was playing with his friends, obviously, most of whom were Muslims. And all of a sudden, his family came and asked that, we need to pack our bags and we need to leave. And somehow, after that event happened in his life, he had, in his heart, whether he wanted it or not, but there was some sort of negativity towards Kashmir and Kashmiri Muslim community in general. And just like Namrata said, that the chapter of Kashmir in a way was done and dusted. He had his own challenges in setting up his place in Jammu with his family, and slowly he started building his career, and then moved to Delhi, worked in many other companies, and then when he started working with us, that's again another story which probably we'll share sometime later. But the fact of the matter is that the moment he got connected and we started having a conversation, initially there was a kind of a gap that one could feel, but over a period of time that changed into a comfort. And in the last 7 years, I think we have come so close. I treat him as an elder brother, and he treats me as a younger brother. But in the company, I hold the position of the CEO, and he's the CFO. So we have a very different relationship when it comes to how we are in business and how we are otherwise. And these 3 to 4 or 5 years that we have been in touch, and we have tried in our own very small way for the reconciliation to happen, not to show it to anyone, not to bring about a movement, but just from our own personal relationship, personal experience. We wanted him to be back in Kashmir. We wanted him to spend more time. He comes from a village in Darham, from Pulwama. And when he came, we went out, we went to places like Dudpatri, we went to places like Pahalgam. And now he is also getting the opportunity to bring his wife, his children to Kashmir. And over a period of time, there is this conversation that we are having today of acceptance that every community suffered, whatever the reasons may have been. So there is that acceptance that came between us, and then the relationship that we were able to build after that. I think that is one of the most beautiful relationships I've ever had in my life. So in terms of what should happen, I think we need success stories. We need stories of individual reconciliations. And it should not happen, in my view, personal view at least, it should not happen as if someone is, as a politician is coming and they're doing some announcements and then people flock into Kashmir. That's never going to happen. It will have to genuinely come from both the communities. And I think there is also an onus and responsibility on the Kashmiri Pandit community side also, that even from 1990s till early 2010, 11, most of the Kashmiri Pandit families who stayed back willingly, they have had a beautiful relationship with their Kashmiri Muslim neighbors and every other community. So that is something that also is not being talked about much. So I think awareness about people who stayed back are still in Kashmir, people who went out, all the narratives should be discussed, all the narratives should be talked about. But I think the underlying thing that I would want to get out of this whole conversation that happens across the board is, you as an individual, you have to see what you can do, and you have to see what impact you can have. If every one of us in our own personal capacity takes at least one initiative, I think over a period of time it will have a snowball effect and we will see a change at the largest level. But it will have to start small. Similarly, after all of these years, last year we set up another organization called Launchpad Kashmir. Now, that initiative works with entrepreneurs from the region and trying to build and bridge the gap of intellectual and financial capital. And the best thing that happened to Launchpad Kashmir was the co-founder of Launchpad Kashmir, along with me and other few members, is a Kashmiri Pandit, Vivek Rena. And that is again our own way of showing that these communities can work together in order to impact the society at large in Kashmir in their own individual capacities. And you don't have to blabber about it. You don't have to, come on a stage and just, blabber about what all you have been doing. I think the work will show for itself. And with that, a lot of Kashmiri Pandits also are now having those conversations with their children about their origins, where they have been, what they have been doing. And slowly and steadily, these people with their families, when they come to Kashmir, when they see the place, when they meet people, when they greet people, when they see the neighbors they used to live with, I think that is a feeling that no one can really express. That is a feeling from beyond. I think those feelings are something that we have to be after, and it will only happen if we all individually play our small parts and not expect something to happen at a large scale. I think the intent is definitely there from both the communities. Acceptance, letting go of whataboutery, and putting in those small efforts wherever you can. I think that is something that both the communities do need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Muheet. The fact that you're doing these two initiatives speaks volumes, right? Kashmir Box is about the cultural crafts of Kashmir and giving it an international market. And, the role of the healing arts through craft, art, music, theater, storytelling. This is the intangible heritage and the soft power that can actually lead to healing. I mean, the armed forces and the politics and the governments, they can do what they have to do. They can't relinquish their job. But how can society, civil society, reclaim its power in Kashmir, just to not be victims and not claim I'm a bigger victim than you, because then everyone succeeds in being a victim, right? My whole dream and aspiration for Kashmir was, how can the people of Kashmir, especially the women of Kashmir, the artisans of Kashmir, how can they reclaim their power and become creators and not victims, right? So what you're doing with Kashmir Box and what you're doing with creating those social cultural entrepreneurs through Launchpad Kashmir, I mean, these are the two tremendous initiatives which are pathways to healing, because healing is not just emotional. There has to be a economic base to it as well, right? I mean, Kashmir has lost out on the economic development the country has had in the last 30 plus years, right? So why should Kashmir not also enjoy that? So which is why Bharat is here on the call, Bharat Wakhloo, Namrata is here. We all started Moj Kashmir, a sistership program for the women of Kashmir to become regenerators through social entrepreneurship. So I love everything that you're doing. You are walking the talk. You are the bridge maker. You are the peacemaker. You are the one who's creating the pathways to reconciliation. So may we have many more Muheets. Thank you so much. But I want to invite Inayat ji here because I know his heart aches for this subject a lot. And I would love to hear Inayat tell us about how, through his initiatives, he is finding pathways to healing. Inayat ji? Inayat?
Uh, Telling you very honestly, so in individual capacity, whenever I meet the Pandit, I it's a very exciting experience whenever I come across them, and trust me, I try to connect from here. So this is personally what I felt like this is creating that connect which we have lost. So initiating the conversation from here, whether we meet in metro or any other places, and asking them where from you are, that kind of conversation I always initiate. That is one part of, what I have kept in mind. And secondly, you know, the kind of pain the community has gone through, that's really whenever I think of that, even my family thinks of that, my wife, like we think a lot, we discuss a lot, we really get numb, and we really get so distressed when we feel that when someone is just kicked out of his home, and that too for decades. Oh my God, this is, and I personally believe if it would, God forbid, happen to us, we would belong to nowhere. I think, from my perspective, it is so hard. And in my limited capacity, this is what I have been doing, connecting with them and discussing, what we are doing on this conversation, like owning their pain, like understanding like there has been some partly, some misguided elements from the community who have been the reason of their pain, which we also even condemn today, maybe silently, because the atmosphere of Kashmir is, nobody knows what happens tomorrow. Like it is still there. So that is the little what I have been doing and I continue to do. But at the same time, I think this also needs to be told. I don't think there is much scope, ma'am, from the individual side other than this, connecting on individual level and doing whatever you can do. It's not only the acknowledgement, even in some tangible terms, if you can do something. Look, uh, I met someone in Vivanta along with the chairperson of National Commission for Women some 3 years before. I didn't know she was a Kashmiri Pandit. So she brought some madam. This chairperson of the NCW was, I think, busy with something. So she brought a watermelon juice for us and everything. So in the conversation, she told like I'm a this Kashmiri Pandit and all that, and she told like some property has been, somebody has held her property here illegally and everything. And trust me on this, I told her that I will help you out, even facilitating this entire process, because I have been working with the government for a lot, collaborating on many initiatives, and I have been a social worker, and I have tried to understand the system in order to help the people around me. So I know where you have to put the application, where it will go, and how you have to push it. And somebody was telling me recently, I don't know how correct it is, there have been a lot of issues, a lot of discussions going around the land, the temples in Jammu Kashmir, somehow held by those who should not be, actually in charge of those temples. And somebody was telling me from the press, and that Dr. Sandeep Mawa is leading that process. So he was telling me, do you know who gives him the input? So it's not the any Hindu or Kashmiri Pandit. It is the Kashmiri Muslims who are telling him that this land, which belongs to temple, is illegally occupied by that particular person from that particular community. So, I think, ma'am, and I would also like to tell you this. I think this should be noted. There is reconciliation. We acknowledge, but we acknowledge it silently. I think there is the lack of expression is there because there is no platform or there is no such event or initiative taken place. I think you will have, even of my age, some strongly headed and more and the people who have understood and connected or related to this pain than more than I have. They are here and they really feel for this community. So had there been any kind of a platform, some kind of an initiative, I think this would have been expressed in a very better manner than what I am doing. So there is also the lack of space, ma'am, here, and there is a very less scope, we less scope for that from from doing some sort of a mega initiative on that that can do some mass healing, I would say. Because we till Pahalgam attack, even till the attack that Pandit was killed recently, some few years back in the Badgam area in his office. Trust me, ma'am, whosoever comes to Kashmir or have come to Kashmir from any other part of India, like who were known to us, we used to give them the personal guarantee that you come. We used to be proud that we are a zero crime state against tourists till date. And we used to tell them, like, we are personally giving you the guarantee. We are responsible for your security. You come and nothing will happen to you, and enjoy this place. There's a lot to see. But that Pandit killings here, which were never happened, which happened only 2019, which we, for the first time we witnessed. And then this Pahalgam thing. We are not devastated. I don't think I don't have a word. Devastation is something very small. Something has happened, it has really killed that confidence within us, of inviting someone and even feeling safe in our own place. I think all of us, even Kashmiris, are really scared of what has happened, and we are really feeling that scare, that fear is now more intense. It was not. And but to Namrata, I would like to say, like she said, that the things have changed. I think Pahalgam and the killings of the civilians, which has not happened earlier, is a big reminder. We should not ignore these things. I don't think, in my perspective, the space is, that safe or that comfortable. What it even was before 2019. I think it has really gone very charged because of the events what have happened, and I personally will tell you, I feel more secure today than what I was feeling before that because of the events that took place. Yes, otherwise I was also very happy and hopeful the way things were before these things happened, that everything was going fine. People, those strikes and many other things were not happening, and some other things. So, but with these events, everybody's confidence has got shaken. And really telling you, Nilima, also, everybody here, I think today's generation, particularly, who look for the truth and who have some sort of thought process also, they do understand there has been a lot of, I would say, there are no words. Pain is something very small. Injustice, we can't call it. There is something, I don't have a word. That kind of a pain this particular community has gone. Maybe I think post that we also suffered a lot, and even we are suffering today. Look at the indices of Kashmir, various indicators. Look at the drug addiction, look at the other social problems we have today. And you will have the political instability as the most, the one of the core factors to blame for all the kind of issues we have today in Kashmir. So I think if at all we were even a bit responsible, even if the silence was seen by God as something which we should not have not remained silent. I think we also have got a lot of punishment. I would say, if you see like that, we have we have been punished enough by the circumstances till date because of this problem. And just to quote one thing, there is a Pandit who lives in Hyderabad these days, a very successful family. I would tell you, Dilimash, they have around, I think, a 70, 80 crore rupees property even today. near airport, and they are taking care of that themselves. She was not traveling to Kashmir because of the trauma she had here for around, I would say, 2000, I guess 2010. She had never traveled here since she left in 90s because of trauma she had. But it was my father-in-law who used to consistently call her to come. You have a lot of assets here, take care of them. You have a home here. Why you are not coming? And trust me, when she came, because of the confidence of my father-in-law, he had to go to airport to pick him up, and she felt unconscious. And he was the one who brought him here, who made her very conscious, of the belongings they had here. And he facilitated the everything. And we are so proud of that. And we are even connected to, her. Now we are also connected as a family with that one day. So there are numerous stories I think you would get from every corner of Kashmir, which we are individually already doing. The reconciliation, I think, has already happened in among the population, in a way, like the way whosoever gets the opportunity to do something on this front are doing. But it's not expressed publicly. And there has also not been ever any kind of a public conversation around these things. Maybe people would have expressed the way we are expressing, the way Mohit is here. And Nilima, trust me, my family advised me against going into this conversation today, whether you believe me or not. But I said, yeah, I have already committed. I can't, I made some excuses and somehow because I wanted to speak. And Namrata also, I also had 1 hour conversation with her, and we agreed almost on everything. We had the same understanding. In that 1 hour, we discussed past, present, even the future.
So,
So,
I'm so grateful that you have found the courage to really speak your truth and stand up for it and join this call today. We are also live on YouTube, and I'm sure later on you'll go and see comments there from viewers. But we have just another 5 minutes to close. And I know what we began today is just having scratched the surface of truth and reconciliation. What I would like is each of you to give us 1 minute, not more, maybe just one line, maximum two, to describe what would heal your heart. What would heal your heart if you were to see that happen in Kashmir? What is your dream and vision for Kashmir? What is it that you could see? If you saw that, you would feel healed. You would feel good. Any one tangible thing. Mohit shared, you all already said many things, but can we summarize it to four things that each of you shares? What will bring truth and reconciliation to your heart? Amit, Dr. Amit?
Well, for me, it has been always a dream that I can see all the communities together happily, peacefully enjoying. And I don't see any family as we used to see in Kashmir. Every day we lose someone, whether it's a civilian, a police person, or any person from any community. I don't want to see any family cry because we have seen, I have suffered. I know what happens to families when you lose a family member. For 10 days, for 4 days, everyone comes. After that, you are just left to your own self. No one else comes. I would like to quote here. We had a very active one of our teachers also, Professor Nusrat Andrawi. She's not now here. So many years back in 2018, we started one initiative called Salam Mahra. Salam, because on second day of Herath, we call it Salam, because Kashmiri Muslims would come and greet you. Shivratri, we call Herath in Kashmiri. And Mahra, Kashmiri Muslims talk to Kashmiri Pandits with respect. So this was Salam Mahra initiative that we had started and people would come. There she mentioned when this migration 90s happened and why nothing happened. And she said that the way 2014 floods, when it came, she was in her house and for 10 days she had no news about her sister and brother whether they are living or not. Similarly, 90s was a flood of violence for everyone who lost whosoever family members or whatever. But after that, the only thing I personally believe Kashmir will grow only when all the communities are inclusively together because this is a spiritual land and it demands that. We have saints, we have peers, we have fakirs, we have so many people, so many places. This land is blessed spiritually, and you cannot take this land to any peaceful place until unless every child of this place is connected with each other. And I want to see that Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Muslims, Kashmiri Sikhs, even some Christians who live here, or all others, Kashmiri Hindus, and everyone I want to see together. I think that will be the day when I would love to leave this world. I have not migrated, or I never joined any job opportunity outside, even if I was in Yale or Harvard, because my heart belongs to that thing. And I will keep on trying till I'm living in this world. Thank you.
That is so beautiful, Dr. Amit. I think you spoke for all of us, and we are on the last minute now. So only if someone really, really wishes to say something. Otherwise, I think you spoke for all of us. Anyone else wishes to say? Otherwise, I feel very complete. Maybe I'll just ask Bharat. He's here. He's been with us the entire time. Maybe you close us out with just a prayer or a wish.
So I will, first of all, thank you very much to all of you. And today being Guru Purnima, I think I will just close with a prayer of gratitude. Gratitude to you, Nilima, for initiating this process, and my sincere, sincere thanks to your extraordinary panelists, Inayat, Namrata, Muheet, and Amit, for speaking their hearts, for sharing their stories, and for also showing us a way forward, which is that we have to acknowledge each other's pain, acknowledge that we have to heal ourselves together. We have to acknowledge our shared heritage, and whatever we can do with the individual agency that we have, like Inayat mentioned, Namrata mentioned, Muheet mentioned, and even Amit did. I think that agency, our individual capability, has to be leveraged in our sphere of influence. And I'm very, very confident it's going to make a huge difference. But to you, Nilima, a huge, huge pranam on this auspicious day for really, really doing what you have done through Shakti leadership. God bless you all. Namaskar.
Thank you, Bharat. I'm getting goosebumps, and it's really such a special day. Wherever you are, please go out and look at the moon and pray for the beauty of Kashmir. Pray for the syncretic civilization to reestablish itself in a whole new way, relevant for these times, as a beacon for the rest of the country and for the world. And with this prayer, thank you to each one, Dr. Amit, Inayat, Namrata, Muheet. We have just begun a conversation, and we will continue. We will continue, and we will bring more to this conversation. So deep gratitude and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Nilima. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.